And hello, Vikings fans. It's time for the Uncovered Vikings edition, episode 3 of the season. We just finished week 3. We're going into week 4. We got some stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's have some fun. Love that intro. Anyways, here we go. Vikings fans, we're 3-0. Before I get into anything else, first I want to touch on the recent news about a couple former players. Brett Favre has been diagnosed with Parkinson's, so we send him our best wishes and healthy healing thoughts, as well as Tommy Kramer. If you don't know him, he was the Vikings quarterback from the late 70s into the 80s, second leading passer all time for the Vikings, 24,775 yards, give or take. So yes, much love and happy and healthy healing thoughts towards both of them. So let's get into the rest of it. Vikings, we're 3-0. Awesome. Nobody thought we were going to be here at this point. In fact, I didn't either, to be completely honest. But I'm happy that it's here. I'm happy that we're 3-0. The team's looking really, really sharp. So after that last win against the Texans, which I clearly underestimated and was off a bit on my guesstimation of the score. We won 34-7, 21 straight points to start the game. So that would be another 13 points to end the game. I mean, it was getting ahead, not giving Texans any time to get comfortable, especially CJ Stroud in the pocket. 4 different players scored touchdowns for the Vikings: Jefferson, Naylor, Jones, anytime touchdown call, and Munt. Fans were obnoxiously awesome again. I think I even saw the wave going on near the end of the game, like Minnesota fans tend to do. It's fun. It's stupid, but it's fun. And then all that positional depth. We didn't have pace last week, and well, we'll get to the defensive players in a minute, but the fact that we were missing a couple players and other players stepped in and filled the gaps seamlessly. The defense is absolutely locked down. The offense is on point. The coaches know what they're doing. Special teams is kicking butt. So let's just break down each of the parts of the field as we go through. We'll start off with the defense again. So Vikings defense, the only team in the last 20 years, at least the last 20 years, to have at least 5 sacks in each of their first 3 games to start a season. Only one, last 20 years. That's amazing. B-Flow is killing it out there with that squad. Everybody's doing their job well. So it was 5 sacks, 9 tackle for losses, batted down 8 passes, a couple interceptions last week. Defense looked absolutely dominating, and I loved every second of it. So like I said before, we didn't have pace. So the guy who stepped in and had the biggest increase in role, that was, pardon me if I butcher this, Camus Grugier Hill. Journeyman player, finally gets a shot, and yeah, batted down a couple of passes, had some tackles. He had one of the 2 interceptions. He was great. Even got a game ball after the game, and he deserved it. And he'll have to step up again, obviously, because we already know we're not having pace again this week. I think he's the only player that's officially out going into the game time or going into Sunday's game. So that's good that we have a very short list of injuries to deal with. It's unfortunate we're still missing pace. He is still a big part of the defense, but as long as we've got that depth and guys like Grugier Hill and Tillery and Van Ginkel and Grenard and everybody just doing their thing and stepping in and adding extra help where it needs to be, it's going to be good. Back to the rest of the defense. Cam Bynum was on point 100% of the snaps. He had the other interception. He had 6 tackles. 5 of them were solo. Harrison Smith was also 100% snap share. Byron Murphy, he was at 90% snap share. So those guys getting around and playing the bulk, if not all the plays on defense and doing it well. Jonathan Grenard will come back too. 3 sacks in the game. NFC Defensive Player of the Week. Kudos to you, my friend. Van Ginkel, 6 tackles, 5 of them solo, 1 sack. Harrison Smith had 7 tackles. Griffin and Gilmore were both shut down in coverage. And then there's my boy Tillery getting his hands up there and batting down another pass at the line of scrimmage, or getting a piece of one at least. Just getting that little tip on it completely changes the trajectory of the ball, and it's almost never going to be caught after that, because just that little tip just makes that ball start to wobble and spin and quack all the way into another direction, hopefully into the hands of a defender. But yeah, the guys on defense are absolutely killing it out there. Absolutely killing it. And I'm so happy about it, and I look forward to seeing it again every single week. On the offensive side of the ball, we'll start with head coach Kevin O'Connell. Watched one of his press conferences the other day. Like I said, it's a lot of coach speak. A couple of things I do want to focus on in what he was talking about. Talking about how they were looking at the previous games, if they're letting that influence or whatever. And what he said about it was along the lines of, how did I word it earlier? The previous games, they don't mean nothing. They're done. They're gone. They're in the rearview mirror. We don't have to think about those anymore. But at the same time, you need to continue to focus on the things that happened in those games, specifically mistakes, I would assume, and just have that in your mind. So when you're out there running a play, carrying the ball, trying to make that tackle, maybe just really quick, have one of those slow motion moments in your head for a second and just remember, don't do that. And the other thing I wanted to touch on from what O'Connell was saying was, one of the reporters asked him about Hawkinson, and O'Connell said he's doing great. Maybe he'll come back soon. I'm going to put the brakes on right there. I do not think Hawkinson should come back soon. There is literally no reason for him to come back soon. There's no reason to rush him back. He's an elite tight end. He just got paid a bunch of money. The Vikings have a huge investment in him. The Vikings don't want him to go out there and get re-injured. He doesn't want to go out there and get re-injured. He wants to play. The Vikings want him to play. They all want him to be at 100%. So rushing him back is a bad thing. We don't need to start that hype. We don't need to get it started. Let him get back to 100%. He's there every day at practice. He's in the meeting rooms, going through the playbook, watching other guys, probably giving his 2 cents here and there, because a couple of younger guys on the team, always look up to the veterans and the guys with the well-maintained, pretty long hair. Moi. No. But yeah, no, there's no reason to rush him back. He needs to just get to 100% and then come back. And then we've got Hawkinson and Addison and Jefferson and Naylor and Jones and Muntz and Oliver and just the whole kit and caboodle of amazing offensive players. Just keep it going. Keep the status quo for now. Just get healthy, TJ. We want to see you back. Offensive line. So they gave up 4 sacks this last week, which is the most they've given up in any game of the season so far, but it's still not a lot. I'd like to be in that, less than 2.5 or less range, personally. So just less than 3, everything, just to keep the wear and tear off of the quarterback, because quarterbacks, they could go down at any time. They just got to have that one hard hit and fall down the wrong way or get twisted up like Darnold almost did last week on that one almost sack from Daniil Hunter. But yeah, only 4 sacks allowed. Both the tackles took a little time off the field, which is fine. It was in the end of the game. We're just like, all right, let them rest. Let them, we don't need to play everybody the whole entire game. Darrisaw and O'Neal are both established great bookend tight ends, so it made sense. Another thing I want to touch on with O'Neal is I bet you haven't heard a lot about him when you're watching the games, and that's a good thing. It's always a good thing when you don't hear about an offensive lineman. You don't hear their name called. You don't hear their number called, because if you hear their name or their number, it usually means they just got a penalty. Brian O'Neill is playing amazing on the right tackle end. He's holding up to those big rushers. I mean, he almost completely stifled Bosa a couple weeks ago. He did a good job with Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter at any given time last week. I think Will Anderson did have one sack, and Danielle did hit the quarterback a couple times, but he's doing really good over there. Darisal's doing really good on his side. The interior linemen are doing well. And like I said, they all played 100% of the snaps, so everybody's healthy. That's the main goal going forward. Keep everybody healthy, keep the same group intact, and they'll keep meshing off of each other really, really well. Quarterback time. Sammy Darnold leading the NFL in passing touchdowns. Nobody had that on their bingo card. Nobody did. But yeah, 8 passing touchdowns over the first 3 weeks of the season, with 4 coming last week of 181 yards. He's just making good decisions. He's comfortable in the pocket because the O-line is holding it up for him most of the time. You know, he didn't have to do any scrambles last week, which is good, which is fine. He doesn't have to. If he's comfortable in the pocket and doesn't need to turn a broken play into something else, kudos. Awesome. Great job by the line. Great job by him. Just sitting back, waiting, and throwing the pass when he needs to. I just want him to keep making good decisions. That's all we want from him. He doesn't need to throw for 300 yards. He doesn't need to throw for 4 touchdowns. He just needs to continue playing excellent football, being that field general for the team. Running backs, let's go with them now. Aaron Jones, 102 rushing yards on the day, 46 receiving yards, and a touchdown on 5 receptions. Dude still looks great. Keep it up, Aaron Jones. Loving it. Chandler, smaller role, 7 carries, only 13 yards. I think I said it last week. Excuse me. Last week when I said it's going to be one of those kind of years where one running back's going to go off and the other one's not. You know, last week it was Chandler who had the 8.2 yards a carry. This week it was Jones getting 102 yards on 19 carries and then scoring a touchdown. Great production from the running backs. But yeah, we're probably going to have one go off and one, you know, I don't want to say disappoint because I'm not disappointed in them. They're doing their role. They're playing well. And they're both even making blocks in the backfield. Like, that's another part of the reason that Darnold's been so clean this year. Excuse me. I'll get into wide receivers next. There we go. Wide receivers. Justin Jefferson. 3rd week in a row, touchdown. Caught 6 of 8 targets, 81 yards. Naylor, 3rd straight week with a touchdown. 3 catches out of 4 targets, 31 yards. Awesome. And now this week, ladies and gentlemen, we get Jordan Addison back. He's officially off the injury report as of Friday, which means he's 100% go. So we've got Naylor and Jefferson and Addison. I want to, and I think we will see a lot of 11 personnel. If you're not familiar with 11 personnel, it's 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end on the field, as well as the quarterback and the running back. But I think we're going to see a lot of that. It just spread out the defense. They're not going to know who's going to get the ball because now we got 3 established pass catchers out there. One of them arguably being the greatest wide receiver in the NFL today. I'll let you debate on who that is. But yeah, a lot of 3 wide sets. You know, I think it's something they're going to do different just because they can now and just to keep the Packers guessing. Tight ends, not a lot's changed over there. About 50-50 split on snap usage for the 2 of them. Oliver didn't have any catches. Munt had that 1 catch, 2 yards for a touchdown. Good job, Johnny Munt. And Robert Tonyan got moved into a role with Muse going on IR last week. So Robert Tonyan, the former Packer, he was in about only like 5% of the snaps. So he was just there to spell the other guys and maybe run there was a couple plays of 2 tight ends. You know, it's not the Vikings' favorite offensive setup to use this year, apparently, which is fine. We've got 2 tight ends to do it, but it makes sense if you got so many different pass catchers and guys in the backfield to use. You don't need to run out 2 tight ends very often unless it's like, 3rd and 1 or 2nd and 1 at the goal line or something. Special teams. Here's where I get to eat my crow from last week. Will Reichard, awesome, perfect still. Another game of perfection. 4 for 4 PATs, 2 for 2 field goals. I stated last week that I didn't see him being able to hit anything over 55 yards, and if that. But he hit a 58-yarder last week, and it would have been good from 60. Absolutely. So, sorry, Will Reichard. I misjudged you. I just figured since your longest made field goal in college was 52 yards, that it wasn't going to be anything a whole lot longer than that. So, thank you for proving me wrong, Will Reichard. So, and keep doing what you're doing. We're just going to keep putting it through those uprights. That's all I ask. That's all we want. Ryan Wright, another fine day punting, 48.3 yards per punt on 4 punts. I love that the Vikings haven't punted more than 4 times in a game now this year either, because that just means the offense is succeeding. They're not they're not coming up short. They're not running out of time. And yeah, if he goes and gets 3 or 4 punts every single game, that probably means a win, honestly. It's a weird thing to look at, but if a team doesn't punt at all or very little, it usually means they're winning. Perfect example would be the Washington Commanders. Have not punted in the last 2 games. I think that's right. I know for sure they didn't punt in the last game, and I'm fairly certain they didn't punt in the week 2 either, but it's just one of those weird things. That's a weird outlier for when you're looking at a stat sheet, like, who punted the least? Well, the team probably won. You're probably right. All right. So now we've broken down pretty much all that. Oh, I guess I could say the return game. Yeah. Powell had a punt return, 10 yards, and Gaskin had a 19-yard kickoff return. I mean, they both made a return, so good. They'd both be somewhat valuable, and I wouldn't even say valuable in Sky Fishbowl League, but anywho, that's neither here nor there. Neither here nor there. Let's go on. Let's get down to the breakdown of the upcoming matchup with the Green Bay Packers. I know. Somewhere an angel just died because I said that team name. Sorry. Just clap your hands afterwards and it'll be fine. Anywho, here we go. Packers hosting the Vikings this week in old Lambeau Field. The Packers have now won 2 games in a row. There's 2-1 on the season. They beat the Titans 30-14. That's like us beating the Giants 30 to whatever we beat them to. The Titans are an okay team at best, but the Packers they got up and they just kept ahead. They do what the Vikings have been doing all year. They had 8 sacks in the game, and they had a pick 6, an interception for a touchdown. For those of you who maybe don't know what a pick 6 is, I don't know. There might be somebody out there. I'm just trying to be inclusive to everyone. We're trying to have fun. We're trying to inform. So their defense is solid. I'll give it pretty solid. I'll give them that. The biggest advantage against them, though, would be to try and run the ball. They're not hugely. I mean, they look pretty decent up front, but really the only thing that's kind of a skewed perception based on getting way ahead in that Titans game last week and not allowing the Titans just electing to not run the ball because they needed to throw to keep up. So their stats look a little inflated. Whereas with the Vikings, I mean, Jordan Mason still got his touches and had like 70 yards rushing. Cam Akers still had a bunch of touches last week. He was the one who scored the one sole touchdown for the Texans anyways. But running is where you need to beat the Packers. I think it's going to be a lot of running of plays, short yardage passes, the kind of thing. Like I said, the Vikings needed to do against the Texans last week. So maybe if I say that, they'll just keep throwing to the outside guys. Anywho, big talker coming into the Packers game, though, is will Jordan Love play? Now, he's been practicing each week in a limited fashion. He's been limited all this week. I honestly think it's 50-50, and I think it would be in the Packers' best interest to not use him yet. The Vikings, I mean, will destroy him. There's no way he could be back 100% and at full mobility from that injury. That a knee injury has like typically a 3 to 4 week window. This is week 3. So this is the week he should be looking at getting ready to come back, not the week he should be coming back. I seriously doubt that he's going to be at 100%. If he starts and plays and starts for the Packers, he's going to get destroyed. He's not going to be able to move around the pocket, which is one of his assets he uses to extend plays and wait for the guys to get open. He can move around. He can scramble a bit. If he can't do that, I'll say it again, he will get destroyed. I don't want to see a guy get horribly hurt on the field. So please, Green Bay, be smart. Don't put him in yet. Plus, you probably have a better chance if you use Malik Willis, who last week threw for 200 yards and a touchdown, ran for 73 yards and a touchdown. He's a scrambler. He's a guy like a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson. He's not that caliber, but he's got that skill set. Those are his weapons. Those are his abilities to run around. Vikings have also been notoriously over the history, like the last, how long have scrambling quarterbacks been a thing? Since like Mike Vick? Well, technically since Fran Tarkenton, but it became popular in the era of Mike Vick. But yeah, just historically, teams with those kind of quarterbacks just seem to go off against the Vikings. So I think it's in the Packers' best interest, if they really want to win, to go out there with Malik Willis and just hope he continues to not make mistakes. But yeah, I don't know. I really think that they're going to consider putting Love in. But let's move on. I've talked about that too much. They've got more than one position on the field. Josh Jacobs, he looked good the first week of the season. He looked good the second week when they lean on him without Love. Last week, only 43 yards on 14 carries. His efficiency has gone down each week. And by that, I mean his yards per carry. His yardage totals have gone down each week. He has had a lot of touches over the last couple of years. If they keep trying to use him like that, like 20 or like 18, 19, 20 touches a game or more, he's going to get worn down before the halfway point in the season. And then they got to go with a rookie who's already been banged up, another guy who nobody had ever heard of, and probably somebody off the street. But yeah, that other running back that nobody ever heard of, Emmanuel Wilson, 12 carries, 50 yards, 2 catches for 35 yards and a score. He is going to be a necessary weapon in the Packers running game going forward if they want to be able to keep everybody healthy. So look for him to get a significant number of carries. Excuse me. Wide receivers, Jaden Reed, their best wide receiver. He was 4 catches for 50 yards last week. Then there's Christian Watson, who had 2 catches for 67 yards. He's that big play guy, but they also just don't even really throw to him a lot. I'm still in the camp of Jaden Reed and Romeo Doubs over Christian Watson every day. They're both more sure-handed receivers. Doubs last week only had 2 targets and 1 catch for 18 yards, but they're more sure-handed. They're both better route runners. They don't have that explosive ability like Watson does, although you could argue Reed kind of does. He's kind of a gadget player. You could see him coming, making plays out of the backfield, kind of like a new age Percy Harvin, but not that good. Still good, though. Jaden Reed is a worthy play in fantasy every single week, even if Love is not on the field. The tight ends, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft. I'm more of a Kraft guy myself. I have been since his college days. Either of them could have a little success, especially if, without pace in the backfield. We just need somebody or some buddies to hold up and keep those guys locked down, not let those medium-sized plays turn into 10 or 15 yards or more. Jair Alexander on the defensive side of the Packers did not practice on Friday. He's questionable for the game. I don't think he goes. And I hope he doesn't, because he is their best cornerback. without him, boy, Justin could really have a day. Because Jair will play almost blanket coverage on Justin Jefferson if he plays. If he's good enough to play, he's going to be good enough to give Justin Jefferson some fits. But if he doesn't play, sky's the limit. Another guy on the defense that I would look at for the Packers, Isaiah McDuffie. He had 9 tackles, 6 of them were solos last week. Gets around all over the field, makes plays. It's reliable, but could cause some problems for the Vikings. So watch him out there. Watch him out there. All right, let's just get into the betting props for the week. As of yesterday, the Packers were favored by 2.5 points. I would definitely take the Vikings plus 2.5 on that one because I'm thinking the Vikings pull this off. I think just the timing and the momentum and the fact that 2 key players for the Packers are very possibly not playing. I mean, they really should. I mean, if they're good to go, set them out there. Give us a fight. If they're not, let them rest another week. You'll play us again in a few months. Excuse me. Over under 43.5 points. I'm taking the over. I think this is going to be a high scoring game. It could be like 28-30 or 27-24 or 35-36. I don't think it'll be that close. I think one team will come out, by like 4, 5, 6 points at the end. But I'm taking the over 43.5 points. But it really could be, like I told myself I didn't want to make a prediction because it's the Packers and these 2 teams go back and forth like 2 brothers just poking at each other, just pissing the other one off. And somebody wins, somebody loses, and I think the series, I meant to look that up, the series results over the course of history is really close to 50-50. I think the Packers are up by like 1 or 2 games maybe in that. My anytime touchdown prop though for the week, Justin Jefferson, light it up. Definitely scoring a touchdown this week. And bonus, if Jair Alexander does not play, I'd be willing to bet on the over 1.5 touchdowns in the game. So that's saying he's going to score 2 or more touchdowns if Jair does not play. So look that up. Fantasy outlook for the upcoming game involving all the players. Obviously, Justin Jefferson you start. You start Aaron Jones. You start Josh Jacobs. Those are all the guaranteed starts. After that, you can start Darnold if you'd like to. He's got a positive matchup and he's got momentum. Naylor, Addison. I mean, Addison just coming back now, so we haven't really seen what he can do yet, but we know what he can do from the past. But will he have to shake some rust off the tires? I mean, if you got him, you might have to play him, but you don't have to. But also, if you have no other issues, like if you're sitting on a couple injuries on your fantasy team, throw him in there, throw Naylor in there. I think Naylor's still going to get some looks. Reichard, I would possibly stream him as a kicker. Chandler, if you're really desperate at running back, you could throw him in there. I think he'll get enough touches that he could do something, 7, 8 touches. He could turn that into 40, 50 yards. Maybe he gets a score. I don't know. On the Packers side, gosh, Malik Willis, if he starts, it's another one of those, like if you're desperate, if you're playing in a super flex league, yeah, go ahead. If he could produce enough yards to make it worth the start. And if he gets a touchdown, bonus. I would not start Jordan Love if he plays. Personally, no. Like I said, coming back from that injury, there's no way he's at 100%. He might be good enough to play. They might throw him out there. They might just want to see if he can, I don't know, literally explode on the field when he gets hit too many times. I don't know. But no, I wouldn't start him for fantasy. Reed, I would probably shoot in there for fantasy. More likely if Love was playing. Less likely if Malik Willis is the quarterback. Emmanuel Wilson in the backfield as a secondary running back. Again, if you're desperate, I feel like they're going to continue to spell Jacobs as the season goes on because otherwise they're going to run him into the ground and he's going to be a nub. Romeo dubs. If you're desperate, Packers defense, you might be able to get away with. Vikings defense, you might be. I mean, each team could have 2 sacks and an interception, and that's probably a good enough fantasy day for you from a defense. So those are my defensive picks. Boy, where did the time go? Because I'm having super fun with this, and I appreciate everybody for coming in and watching. And for those of you who come back week after week, excellent. For those of you who stay to the end, truly appreciate it. Shout out to my Aunt Jody. And yeah, thank you again for coming in and watching this and allowing me to do this because I'm having a blast doing it. And I will see you all on the next one. Skol Vikings, 4-0, baby. Yeah.